What came first in North America, slavery or racism? Slavery and racism have existed in the rest of the world since the beginning of time. Um, as long as there were people that could take advantage of other people, slavery has always existed and still exists today in parts of the world. Um, Black people were enslaved by white Europeans not because they were black, for the most part. They were enslaved because they were available. Manpower was needed to work in the New World, in America, as it were. It wasn't America at that stage yet, but on the North American landmass. And um, Africa, West Africa, is where the manpower was available. It could just have easily have been Argentina or Turkey or Iceland that they got this manpower. But where the people, the human cargo, as it were available was West Africa. And they were available because they were being sold by other black people. Whites didn't simply go into Africa and snatch black people out of their beds and ship them across the Atlantic. That was more the style of the Barbary pirates and the Ottomans, to be honest. Um, Europeans like the Portuguese and the British bought black slaves from other black slave owners and then shipped them across the Atlantic. Um, it is true that when Europeans got to Africa, sub-Saharan Africa this is, that they found a very primitive society. They'd lived pretty much how Europeans lived thousands of years in the past. Um, and undoubtedly, some Europeans put this down to the colour of their skin and said maybe, perhaps they're not as intelligent. But I think more would have put it down to cultural, climatic, you know, differences. The rivers are not very navigable, as David Livingstone wrote about. Um, and there are a whole host of reasons and other reasons that are not very politically correct as well that I won't talk about here. But um, yes, they were enslaved and brought to North America because that's where the available manpower was. So the answer to that question is slavery came first. Where did the racism come from? Well, racism has come from xenophobia anyway. It's a product of xenophobia. And xenophobia is not necessarily a bad thing. It hasn't been a bad thing all through human history. It's been a very good thing. Perhaps in multicultural societies, it's not the most useful thing to be dragging with us from our ancestral past, but it has certainly seen us through the generations. Where the racism really came in North America, this is when the Bill of Rights was drawn up around the 1770s. And the line that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal became very problematic. Because if all men are created equal, how can you enslave some and not others? So a way around this problem was to say that perhaps black men, black people, are not fully human. Maybe they're not men. Maybe they're just a stepping stone from, Neanderthals or apes to white people. Um, and this is what a lot of them did. Yes, they mustn't be fully human. I don't think many of them could have really believed it, but it was just a convenient falsehood to promulgate. So their despicable practice would be commensurate or compatible with, rather, the Constitution. So this is really how this narrative about black people not being able to do mathematics, not being as smart as white people, and all of this kind of thing. I'm aware of the IQ data among races. I'm not going to talk about it here. Maybe I will in another video. But this is how the racism really became ubiquitous in the United States and lasted for a very, very long time. And it was incredibly hard for black people to get by in America at all, even after slavery. It took really 100 years after their emancipation that they had really a chance of making it on a level playing field. But they certainly have today, no matter what they say, the lefties say in the States. What is just completely laughable is that some will even say that America is worse now than it's ever been. And I hope most of you can see that for the lie that it absolutely is.